Okay, this is Monday, June 17th, and this is day one of the trial period. So as I mentioned in a previous email, we're going to be sticking with the ES, which is the S&P 500 E-minis. And the reason why is because it's a very easy market to learn on. I know a lot of you trade different markets, and that's fine. You can, as you know, put the box on any market. But to keep it simple and so that we're all on the same page, we're going to just go through the ES this week. It gives incredible trades. There's a lot of volume traded on it, and so it's very fluid. So if you do trade other markets, just keep in mind that the principles are the same. The way that we trade the box and the way that we're showing you how we do it, it's the same on any market. So I'm in Mountain Time Zone, so the market opens at 7:30. We had this box form just before it. I've kind of talked about this before. When we have a box form just before market opens, it's usually a pretty good trade because the amount of volume that kicks in when the market opens is usually enough to sustain it through a pretty decent push. And so it's exactly what we got. So a couple minutes, not even a minute after market opens, we get our signal. Boom, we're in. Nails our first profit, nails our second profit, and then we get a second box here, and obviously that one's a winner. Really quick, I wanted to show you this email that got sent in not even 15 minutes after the market opened. So this is a fellow box trader, and it's just really short and simple. Great, and I did the long on the 612. Geez, I'm done for the day if I want. So look at the timestamp on this, 7:43. Okay, so I'm in Mountain Time Zone. So we're talking about 13 minutes after market open. So that's when the email was sent, which is about, well, it's right here. So he was out, and I know that he pulled out his remaining contracts at the green line. So a fill somewhere in the ballpark of 32 or so, and first target at 33. So a quick point there, and then exiting at 35. So maybe 3.25 points off the remaining contracts. And I know that this guy trades with some pretty serious money. So this is a really quick day and very profitable. So what I want to do is just really quickly go over these trades, and they're very simple. They're very straightforward. It's no different than any other day as far as application. So obviously these two, dead winners, easy to win those trades. This one's smaller, but yet a winner. This one here. Okay, so I want to talk about this because at this time, volume was dying down pretty substantially. And so there's been a lot of questions that have come through today even about, anything from, how do you trade chop to, how do you trade low volume time? And the answer is, well, at least the answer that, in my opinion, is that if there's ever a trade that you question, don't take the trade. The minute doubt sets in, doubt meaning, the box is black and white, meaning, the entries, exits, they're all the same. But the only type of doubt that would set in when trading the box are situations where the volume dies off, for example, or, something else, some other type of extreme. And so my opinion is that if you're going to do this to make money, which is the objective, and, today you would have done quite well, if there's the slightest hint of doubt for whatever reason, whether that's, it's volume and volume's really low and I'm not sure about this, don't take the trade. Or maybe, you're really nervous about an announcement coming out, which, by the way, if you go back in history, you'll find in almost all cases, announcements have no bearing or effect on the overall statistics of the box, which is kind of nice. But anyways, if you have, if you're hesitant for any reason, don't take the trade, whether that's because, the signal bar closed below the first profit level, or, whatever the reason is, don't take the trade. So that's another question that's come up quite a bit is, what happens when, we get a signal, but the bar closed either at or close to the first profit level. Well, our opinion on that is to take profits at the green level. And typically in that scenario, unless volume is picking up, it's probably going to do pretty much exactly what it did. this consolidation that we had for quite a while. But this was a winner. Whether you traded this or not, this ended up being a winner because it filled us. It broke through our second profit level, and at that time, you're securing profits, and the rest is history. This one's a little bit trickier. However, I did not trade this one, so I cannot speak from actually executing this trade. But I think you would have, maybe got a tick out of that one. And I say that because we did break the upper level, or probably broke even, to be honest. Because as I've mentioned in previous videos, as soon as we get into the trade, the first thing that you're going to do, or at least that we do, is put our stops in place. Okay, so if we're short, we put our stop a tick above, and then what I like to do is manually adjust my profit targets. This one here, probably another break-even trade if you're trading through this garbage. This one, if you took this long, you lost that. This one here, most likely another break-even trade. If you're going to lose this one, it's only because you took profits above where you got in short, not because you held on to it, because this is quite a bit of time to sit through a trade. And that's something that at least has been my practice for many years, is that if I'm sitting in a trade, nothing's happening, I'm looking for an out. In this type of a strategy. Long term, totally different story. But with box trades, I'm done. Okay, and then we get a long signal, and this one had a pretty decent run considering what we just sat through. Okay, nailed the third profit target, and then we get a short signal. This one gets a tick away from a stop loss, if that's in fact how you play it. Several times, after the signal came 1, 2, 3 times to the tick, and it never stopping you out. This drop here would have filled you. And so this is kind of what I'm talking about. So if you get stuck in something like this, look for a way out. Ideally look for profit, break even if you have to, but protect your capital, cut your losses and be done. This one actually worked out. If I make this smaller, we can see that it hit, bring crosshairs up here, hit our first profit level and our second profit level. So smaller profits, but profit nonetheless. And then we finally have a breakthrough. And so here's the short, and this one nails all profit levels and continues on down. We get one more short call. This is at the end of the day. My personal preference is to not trade, within the last half hour of the day. It's totally up to you though. This one would have filled you if you trade it like I like to trade it, profit one tick above the line. That would have filled you. Small, but winner nonetheless. This one obviously ran, and then markets minutes away from closing. So all in all, it was a very profitable day. These couple of trades here that started right at market open. I mean, everyone's got their own trading style, their own method, their own strategies, their own rules. I'm of the mindset that if I'm up quite a bit and it's early, I'm going to call it a day, like that email I showed you, and go do other things. The market's not going anywhere. These trades will exist day in and day out. It's super easy. I mean, this trade, there's nothing to it. You see a signal, we've got a blue arrow, I'm in, buy. Stop loss goes one tick below to protect capital. And profit target manually gets adjusted shortly after this time to one tick below price of the first level, the second level, and then I'll try to trail it if I can. If not, fine. We'll wait for the next trade. Same thing here. And, yes, took a little bit smaller, maybe a couple ticks off that first one, nailed the second one, and now we have a short. We already talked about all this. So very profitable day. And look at pre-market. We've got, this trade happened, 2 hours before market open, and it nailed it. Winner. Overnight, I mentioned this before. A lot of traders, are asking questions about what about overnight movement with the box. Well, there you go. Had you go long, less than 2 hours after the Sunday night open of Globex, and that thing nailed it. long, and it ran 22 to it peaked out at 34. So this is a 12-point run there. So however you're taking profits, so I mean, huge win ratio today, like most days. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about today because this is important, because if you get stuck in that, the things that I mentioned are things to keep in mind. And the most important thing is to not complicate this. Okay, so you're going to probably hear me say this 30 more times this week, literally. There's 3 things that the box does. Okay, so what it doesn't do is provide buy or sell signals. In other words, this is not saying buy and this is not saying sell. Now, you might be confused at that after everything I've talked about. What it's saying is the direction, in this case up, has a very high probability of going up. Okay, let's make this smaller. So here, where we have this red arrow, let me get rid of my crosshairs. What this is saying is that the direction, the highest probable direction right now, is down. Okay, there's a difference. Okay, just because we have an up arrow doesn't mean you have to get in, and just because we have a down arrow doesn't mean you have to get in. You have just as much freedom and agency as with any other type of trading. What this does is try to put the odds in your favor. And so as I've just reviewed this entire day, I haven't done the math yet, but it's a big day. This is a huge day. Okay, so once again, the box does 3 things. Number 1, it identifies high probability trading opportunities. So when the box forms, it's telling us. So this box that formed here from 7:03, which is when it formed, until we got the blue arrow at 7:30, so for 27 minutes, it was telling us to get ready because the activity that's picking up is very worthwhile to consider. Okay, and so the way that we trade it, we wait for an arrow. And what we prefer to do is get in on the direction of that arrow because it gives us the highest probability. It puts the odds in our favor, okay, which is the second thing. 2, these arrows reveal to us the highest probable direction of the market right now, which again, I've said this many times, is what is really nice about using this tool, is it's a real-time indicator telling us what's happening now as opposed to looking at lagging data that in almost all cases is useless and not applicable to the moment. Okay, and the third thing it does is give us high probability profit levels. And so as I've mentioned, what we like to do right after we get into the trade, place a stop, place first exit 1 tick under the line because I want to get filled. They're highly reactive. The market respects them. As you can see, it's bouncing between them. I mean, this whole run right here, this consolidation, it bounced between these blue lines for, this thing started at 8:02 my time, and it finally broke through at 8:56. So for just under an hour, the market ricocheted between these 2 blue profit levels. Okay, and that's it. There's nothing more to it. So it doesn't matter what you trade, the way that we trade it is exactly the same. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the ES is very fluid. It has a lot of volume, something like 2 million contracts a day. So it's very easy to get filled. It's very rare that you'll get slippage. When it does happen, we're talking about a tick or 2 at most. It's not like crude oil that's very slippery and you put it in order and you're 10 ticks away from where you initially intended to get in. Crude is still a very profitable market, but there's a difference between the two. So if you traded the ES today and you have questions, go ahead and send them in. Tomorrow, Tuesday, June 18th, we're going to do our first live session during the open market. Make sure you've registered for it. And like clockwork, we're going to repeat the same thing over and over every day this week. It'll never change. Some days are bigger, some days are smaller, and other days are bigger. So be ready for tomorrow, and we'll see you then.